Hey guys, welcome to the 2 a.m. Pipe on the Patio. Today I'm smoking my Savinelli 320 Oceano. And in it I'm smoking Brown Irish Twist and Grassmere Flake, which is wonderful. I have a tiny little bit of Grassmere Flake in a jar, just a teeny tiny bit. Probably enough for one bowl. And so I cut up some Brown Irish Twist. And I decided to mix about a half and half with the Grassmere Flake, and man, it is wonderful. It is wonderful. So it's about 6:30. It's dark out. Getting a little bit chilly. Not too cold. It's in the 40s. So it's not too bad. Today I pretty much spent the day listening to music. I was listening to, spent the day pretty much listening to live Cream stuff. Band I love. And, but I got listening to, I was listening to the Cream Wheels of Fire. The live side, and I was listening to Spoonful, and it's about 13.5 minutes long, something like that. 16 minutes. It's 16 minutes long, something like that. And I listened to it, and I listened to it again. I listened to it twice through because I was just so stunned to listening to it. I had the headphones on, and it was just so dang good. So I listened to it twice, and it was just so dang good. Those guys were just so dang good. And then I got, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago or so, they put out like a box set type thing of Cream's Goodbye tour. It's like 4 or 5 dates, full concerts of each date that they did. San Diego, LA, San Francisco, I don't know if it was Sacramento, or there was 4 or 5 different dates on the tour that they did, they recorded. Great stuff, just great stuff. And they were smoking. It was just so good. And so I started listening to that. Man, I was just getting into it. Man, I was just into it. And just took me back to my youth. And when I was in junior high and high school, Cream was the band for me. Cream and Mountain and the Allman Brothers were the 3 bands that, and then Robin Trower as well, were the ones that I just really, really got into at that time. And I just loved those guys, man. I just loved Cream. Gosh, they were good. And I loved Clapton. Clapton was the first guitarist that I really got into and for guitar. And then I started reading interviews with him, the Guitar Player magazines and stuff. And he would, talk about Freddie King. So, man, I got to get some Freddie King. So I got some Freddie King, and bam, I was just hooked on Freddie King. Freddie King changed my life. Freddie King did, boy. I got everything I could find by Freddie King. He was a monster on the guitar. Just a monster. And then I discovered Albert King, and of course B.B. King. But Freddie and Albert were just monsters. And I never got to see Freddie King. He died when I was still in high school. I never got to see him play. I got to see Albert and I got to see B.B. And I've told the story of Albert King and, you know, walking into the club and he's standing right there by the door drinking some coffee and smoking his pipe. And my buddy and I walked up to him and I was dumbfounded. I couldn't even speak. I was just in awe of him. And of course he's 6'5", and, you know, 280 pounds and just a big man, and not fat on him. He was muscular man, just a big man, and was a bulldozer driver and just a big man. And yeah, we went up to him and my friend's like, "Hey, Mr. King, I've been stealing your licks for years." And he's like, "Well, you just keep on stealing them, you know." And I'm like, I'm gonna. I couldn't even speak to the guy, man. I was just my chance to talk to Albert King, and I'm just doing my best Jackie Gleason, you know. And he just laughs. It kind of slaps me on the back, like, "Y'all have a good time. Now go listen to the music. Have a good time." You know, he knew. He knew I was a fan, and I was too dumbfounded to talk to him. And I felt so stupid. And he had that laugh, you know, that laugh of his. He was just laughing at me. It was just funny. But boy, he played that night. The first note he hit just gave me goosebumps all over. The first stinking note he played, just goosebumps all over me. Just chicken skinned me. It was amazing. And I'll never forget that. And then, of course, I discovered Muddy Waters, and Muddy Waters is the man, as far as I'm concerned. Muddy Waters was the top of the chain, Muddy Waters. And then I just started going backwards from there. You know, I went to Elmore James and Robert Johnson, Big Bill Brunzi, and Charlie Patton, and you know, all those guys. I just kept going backwards, and I just tried to find everybody, you know. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey, and it's when I was in my 20s, very early 20s, before I started playing out, and I was still just learning. I'd go to Tower Records every Friday night, every Saturday night, and they had a really good blues section in there. This was back in probably 1980, 81. '79, 80, 81. Saturday night I'd go into Tower Records about 9 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock, and I'd spend 2-3 hours just going through the records in there, in the blues section. And I'd come out with, you know, 10, 15 blues albums. Guys I'd never heard of. I'd take them home, Reverend Gary Davis, and um, just different guys I'd never heard of. Albert Collins. Just all these different guys, and I'd come home with them, and I'd sit all night long, the whole night, from the time I'd get home at 11, 12 o'clock till the sun came up, just listening to these records with my guitar, just trying to play along with them, just trying to figure out what they were doing. Into the mornings, and the next night I'd go do the same thing, and I'd go to a different one and see what they had, and or I'd go to the warehouse. And then we had another store called Off the Record in San Diego, which had a lot of used records, and it was a treasure trove, that place, because you could find stuff that was no longer being sold, stuff that no longer sold. So you could find a lot of really cool stuff there. Man, I'd come home with just loaded down with albums, and then just spend the whole week just listening, trying to play along, trying to figure out what they were doing. I'd come home with Siegel Schwall Band or Charles Ford Band, or all these different blues bands, and trying to figure out what they're doing, and it was just fun times, man. And there were some really cool local bands at that time in San Diego, the Mighty Penguins, with can't think of his name now. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. I can't think of his name now. Amazing guitar player. But anyway, and then the big local band at that time was Ken Schottmeyer and good Lord, I'm blanking totally on these. I used to go see Ken Schottmeyer's band every time they weren't playing, and I'd go see them. And if I wasn't playing on a Friday or Saturday, I was going to see Ken Schottmeyer or the Mighty Penguins. And it was just it was like going to college, going to see those guys play. They were amazing. And Paul Cowie was Ken Schottmeyer's guitar player, and Paul Cowie, I've done a video on Paul Cowie. He was just an amazing guitar player. He could play like everybody. He could play like Freddie King. He could play like Paul Bloom or Mike Bloomfield from Paul Butterfield's band. He could play just like anybody, and then he could play like himself, just play his own style. And he was phenomenal, just phenomenal, and a super nice guy. I got to jam with him and Ken a lot, and on these late night jams we would do at a law office after hours, after everybody would do their gigs. Then we'd all meet at this law office, and a bunch of different guys from different bands would meet at this law office. This one lawyer was a bass player, and we'd meet at his law office, and we'd have these big jams. It was so much fun. Those were good times. Those were good times. I don't think we'll see the likes of those times ever again. I don't think. I just don't. I don't think it's like that anymore. I just don't think it's like that anymore. Those were different times where everybody just all the bands kind of hung out. When they weren't playing, they'd get together and hang out, and it was just a different time. Maybe it's like that now. I don't know. I'm not around now playing with the bands around now, so I hope it's still like that, because it was a wonderful time and a wonderful experience during that time, and I hope it's like that. And I hope the bands today experience that, because it was wonderful being in a band and experiencing that camaraderie that all the bands kind of had together. And after the gigs were over, everybody would meet someplace and hang out, and there was a lot of stuff going on besides just jamming, but it was fun. But those were some good times. It was crazy times back then. Crazy times. I was playing with Tomcat, and Tomcat was like the guy in San Diego. He was the godfather of the blues, and everybody in town at one point or another had come through his band. Pretty much everybody at some point had gone through Tomcat's band, and even if it was just for a short time, or they'd gone and jammed with him or something, but everybody knew Tom, everybody respected Tom, and he was kind of the godfather, the blues godfather in San Diego. There's still, even though Tom's been gone now for 4 years, 5 years now, 4 years I guess it's been, they still celebrate his birthday every year in San Diego and have a big birthday jam, birthday show to celebrate his birthday every year. And that's just so cool. I wish I could go back there for it. I'd love to go back there for it. They're having it. It's either this weekend. I think it might be this weekend they're having it. This coming weekend. But that's just so cool that they're doing the Tomcat birthday bash. But that was a good time. That was just such a good time back then. And all the camaraderie and the bands would, everybody got along, and it wasn't a competition, man. It was just everybody hung out. Everybody wanted everybody to do well. That was the cool thing about it. When somebody did well, when somebody got signed, or somebody put an album out, it was a big deal, and everybody was happy about it, and everybody supported them. And that was the cool thing, man. Like when Buddy Blue and the Beat Farmers, they were local San Diego guys, and they kind of hit it big, and it was a big deal, man, and everybody was behind them, and Mojo Nixon, and it was just awesome when somebody would make it. It was a big deal, and everybody just loved it and was thrilled for them. And Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper and I got to, used to jam a lot together in different places. And Skid was the coolest guy, and he could play every instrument. So we'd go do a jam or something. If we didn't have a bass player, he'd play bass. If we didn't have a drummer, he'd play drums. You know, and he did whatever he needed, whatever you needed. Skid would do. You know, he was that kind of guy. Skid's a great guy, just a great guy, and just the most humble, easygoing guy you'd ever want to meet. Just a wonderful guy. And he played with Mojo Nixon for years. Used to see them on MTV all the time with Martha. What was her name? Martha Quinn. She'd have them on all the time. Yeah, good guys. Mojo was a crazy guy. He was a crazy guy. But a fun guy and a good guy. And a good guy. But he was just full on party mode. I was talking with my buddy Eric. Eric was Tomcat's drummer when I was with Tomcat, and Eric is back in San Diego now, and every once in a while he plays with the Electric Waste Band. It's a Grateful Dead band, and they've been together for 30 years, I think now. Tremendous band, just a tremendous. They're the Bill Walton used to go see them all the time. He was always at their shows, and just loved them. And they're just a great Grateful Dead band. And Bob Rosencrantz is the bass player for those guys. And Bob used to play with me in my band when I had a band together in San Diego. And Bob's just a great guy, just the most easygoing, humble, down-to-earth guy you'd ever want to meet. If you guys could keep Bob's wife, Kristen, in your prayers. She's going through some stuff with cancer, and please keep both of them in your prayers. I love Bob. He's like a brother to me, truly like a brother to me, and I just really appreciate it if you would keep Bob and his wife in your prayers. And wonderful, loving people, and man, I'd love to do an album with Bob and Eric, and that would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. Maybe someday. But anyway, so I don't know why I got off on that tangent. Just started talking about Cream. Got off on a major tangent there. But anyway, that's what's been going on here. I love music, man. I just love music. I got to do some work on my guitars. I got some fret work I got to do on them. The weather here is so much different than in California, and so the humidity is causing all kinds of stuff going on with my guitars. So I got to do some fret work on my guitars. I'm getting some what they call fret sprout on my neck, where the ends of the necks kind of shrink a little bit, and the frets stick out a little bit on the sides of the neck, so they kind of hurt when you run your fingers up them. So I got to get the fret files out, and file the frets down, and smooth them out and everything. And I got to check all my guitars, and because I haven't played a couple of them since I've been here, a couple of them, the acoustic and I got to humidify all of them, stick humidity packs in them and stuff, and just make sure to keep the humidity up, because in the winters, I never thought about it. I never had to do that in California, and it can destroy an acoustic, and I never even thought about it. So, and I got to probably buy a humidifier for the room I keep my guitars in, and just keep the humidity up as well. So all this crazy stuff I got to do in this, instead of having, normal weather where it's always the same all the time. Weather going up and down and up and down. I got to take care of my stuff now. But so that's all new stuff I got to do. So I'll be doing that, taking care of that stuff, and I pulled out one of my guitars, and it just had fret sprout all over it. So I got to do that. And then check all the other ones that I haven't played in a while. Make sure they're not messed up. Anywho, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one. God bless.